From WXXI News, this is Connections. I'm Evan Dawson. Our connection this hour was made earlier this week when a coalition supporting President Donald Trump seemed to be cracking. The most prominent showdown came in an interview between Tucker Carlson and Republican Senator Ted Cruz from Texas. Carlson mocked Cruz repeatedly, calling him slimy and uneducated about Iran, and accusing Cruz of wanting to drag the United States into another war, despite knowing very little about the possible enemy. Cruz responded by hinting that Carlson might just be an anti-Semite who is obsessed with Israel and should instead be supporting American involvement in such a war. It's important to note that President Trump is viewed by a big part of his coalition as a peace candidate. Trump says often he hates war, and his supporters talk about the need to stay out of more foreign entanglements, particularly in the Middle East. Trump has said that he would like to win a Nobel Peace Prize. He said the United States has repeated the same mistakes too often, and yes, particularly in the Middle East. But now Trump is saying that Israel is justified in what they've been doing in Iran, and the United States might soon join them. When asked about the criticism from Tucker Carlson earlier this week, here's what President Trump wrote on his Truth Social. Quote, "Somebody please explain to kooky Tucker Carlson that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon," end quote. Trump later said that he might authorize the assassination of Iran's leader. He might not. He's going to wait another 2 weeks and decide what exactly to do. Many in the MAGA coalition were waiting for Vice President J.D. Vance to weigh in because Vance has also earned a reputation as an anti-war politician. But Vance quickly toed the line. The vice president said that, quote, "Iran cannot have uranium enrichment. This can happen one of two ways, the easy way or the other way," end quote. Trump's director of national intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, testified to Congress in March that U.S. spy agencies do not believe Iran is working on a nuclear weapon. This week, the president waved away her remarks and said she's wrong, and he believes Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on this. For Republican hawks like Senator Cruz, this is the moment they've been waiting for. Cruz and Senator Lindsey Graham are pushing for the president to deliver a devastating blow to Iran. Senator Graham recently predicted that Trump will soon go all in and join Israel's war. So this hour, we wanted to better understand the part of the coalition that wants no more foreign entanglements, no American involvement in new wars, no funding it, no sending bombs, planes, or more, and might be willing to break with the president over the issue. People like Tucker Carlson. And perhaps people like my guests for this hour. Jose Pio is a veteran of the United States Army, a former member of Rochester City Council, a community advocate and leader. Welcome back to the program. Thanks for being with us.
Always blessed to be here. Thank you so much.
As a way of introducing some of your views here, Jose, tell us a little bit about your own service in the U.S. Army, and then I want to know a little bit more about how it's affected your views on war.
I appreciate that because I truly believe everyone has a lens that they see life through, and it's based purely on what they've gone through in life. And me being in the military, I was in military intel. So I was all about gathering intel, analyzing it, making sure that we were actually giving our leaders actual information that was true to the best of our knowledge and timely. So we had to sift through the nonsense. We'd get a lot of information that was a lot of trying to kind of gear us in different directions. And my job was to say, this is not part of what we're here to do. This is what we are here to do. Let's focus on this. And that's what kind of guides me in all my decision making. It's get away from the nonsense, get away from the chatter, listen to both sides for sure. But you have to have discernment and understanding of where you side on the matter. And me being someone who did vote for Donald Trump this year, I did not vote for him anytime prior to that. I can easily break away from Donald Trump and the MAGA movement. I can easily hold them accountable. I talk about them all the time, saying we should not be uplifting anyone on a pedestal. We should be able to hold people accountable. And this right here is a clear example of where I will clearly break away from Donald Trump on this. I believe we should not be in any foreign wars. And being in the military, I've seen both sides. I was in 2000, 2004. 9/11 hit a year after I was in. And I got to see the insides of Intel on how we were making decisions. And a lot of things I was seeing, it just didn't make very much sense to me. So, but in military, you can't really ask questions. You are there to do a job.
You have an order, you carry out the order.
That's it. And my job was not 9/11. I was doing South America, anti-drug cartel stuff. So it was aligned with that, not focus on 9/11, not focus on Afghanistan. So any questions I had really had nothing to do with my mission. But I certainly saw some things that I said, this doesn't look right. This doesn't sound right. And being someone of, exennial, being born in 81, my entire life has been wars and threats of wars. My entire life has been us in wars. And I don't want to see that anymore. I don't want my children to grow up with that.
So a little bit more about your service and how you saw things. Certainly the United States has a history, especially in the middle of the last century, of trying to either evoke regime change in other places, propping up opposition movements, sometimes using military force, sometimes more covertly. And it hasn't been a very successful history. And so by the time you go in to serve, just before 9/11, that history was well known. And yet then 9/11 happens, and these interesting fraying of these coalitions. Jose and I were talking about before the program about how you can talk about, well, you're a Democrat, you're a Republican. There are a lot of different meanings within those camps, especially when it comes to foreign entanglements. I remember Zell Miller, the former governor of Georgia and then senator of Georgia, who was a Democrat but spoke at the Republican National Convention, thundering in Congress, we should bomb the hell out of Afghanistan, bomb the hell out of them. He was so angry about 9/11, he wanted bin Laden, he wanted to kill the Taliban, he wanted al-Qaeda, but he was a Democrat, but he kind of ends up on the Republican hawk side. So I know these coalitions fray, but when you were serving, why was it that you now look back and say, I don't think we're all that good at discerning where we should get involved? What were you seeing?
What I was seeing is that in the short term, we were getting things done. Regime change happens. But what we don't see is in 10, 15, 20 years.
The long-term plan?
Exactly. How it actually impacts us. We just to kind of bring it back to, I like to talk in normal terms here. I went to go see the movie Ballerina, right? That's a John Wick movie where she comes back from years later to kind of avenge her father's death. People don't realize these countries hate us because we've been so entangled in killing the young men who are in their country. We're talking about brothers, fathers, and on top of that, with bombings, we tend to get civilians as well. And my favorite President Obama, was very big on bombing, in the Middle East and with drones, and that doesn't sit well with me. And when we saw what was happening in Afghanistan, and I could see the propaganda behind it, which was they hate America because of our values. I said it doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make any sense that they would
You didn't
fly.
buy that?
No, you don't take over planes to fly them into buildings because you hate the fact that we allow women to go to school and to drive. That's stupid. There's obviously something else there that we have a further interest in, and let's just be honest with the American public so that we can decide for ourselves what we want to be involved in. And I thank God we have kind of information freely available today so that Americans can see that there's war hawks, neocons that on both sides where they just want to go to war. And the only people that benefit that are, I hate to say it, but the financial aspects of it, people who are lending the money to go to war, but then also to rebuild the country on our tax dollars. And obviously, the people who build planes and build bombs. So those people make money off of the backs of not only the taxpayers, but the people who die in that country that we just bombed, that buildings are falling upon kids. I think in this day and age, we're kind of tired of it and we see through it.
To a little bit more about the point about the long-term plan that you didn't see. I want to listen to one of the clips from the Tucker Carlson and Ted Cruz interview, the first clip we have. And a lot of listeners might have heard this by now, but if you haven't, again, it's a 90-minute interview that was contentious throughout. I mean, to the point where I would encourage you to watch it. But this is a clip where Tucker Carlson is basically saying to Ted Cruz, so you're endorsing regime change. You're endorsing the overthrow of the leadership. You might destabilize a country. Let's see how much you know about it. Let's listen to this clip.
How many people live in Iran, by the way? I don't know the population. At all? No, I don't know the population. You don't know the population of the country you seek to topple? How many people live in Iran? 92 million. Okay. Yeah. How could you not know that? I don't sit around memorizing population tables. Well, it's kind of relevant because you're calling for the overthrow of the government. Why is it relevant whether it's 90 million or 80 million or 100 million? Why is that relevant? Because if you don't know anything about the country... I didn't say I don't know anything about the country. What's the ethnic mix of Iran? They are Persians and predominantly Shia. Okay, it's not even... You don't know anything about Iran. So
Okay,
actually,
I am not the Tucker Carlson expert on Iran.
You're a
who
senator
says,
who's calling for the
you're one who
overthrow of the
claims-
government.
You're the one
you
who
don't know
claims
anything about the country.
No, you don't know anything about the country. You're the one who claims they're not trying to murder Donald Trump.
No,
You're the
I'm
one
not saying that.
who can't figure out
I'm
if it was a
saying
good
you
idea to
don't
kill
believe-
General Soleimani, and you said it was bad.
believe they're trying to murder Trump.
Yes, I do.
Because you're not calling for military strikes against them in retaliation. And if you really
we
believe
are
that,
carrying out military strikes today.
you said Israel was.
Right, with our help. I said we. Israel is leading them, but we're supporting them.
Well, you're breaking news here because the U.S. government last night denied, the National Security Council spokesman Alex Pfeiffer denied on behalf of Trump that we were acting on Israel's behalf in any offensive
No,
capacity.
we're not
at all.
bombing them. Israel's bombing them.
You just said we were.
We are supporting
This is high
Israel.
stakes. You're a senator. If you're saying the United States government is at war with Iran right now, people are listening.
Okay.
Okay. So there's one clip. What did you hear there, Jose Pio?
I heard a couple of different things. Number one, I'm not a big fan of gotcha questions. I believe that is kind of what Tucker did there, and it makes sense for social media world to take the clip from it and kind of run with it. I get that part of it, but on the other side of it, he's saying that we are not bombing Iran, but Israel is doing it for us.
That's what Cruz was saying.
That's what Senator Cruz was saying. Okay, so does that make it any better? In my opinion, does that make us feel better that we are using another country's young men and women to fight a battle for us? And to me, it's nonsensical. I don't see another country as an evil or as an enemy of ours unless they do something to us. And so using someone else to bomb them, I don't, it doesn't sit well with me. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, so first of all, on the gotcha question part, I take your point, and I think there are ways that you can explore a really important aspect of this without doing gotcha. If Tucker Carlson had followed up that clip, he didn't say this, but if he had said the following, I think it would have been different. I think he could have said, I am not trying to play gotcha. I'm trying to see if you've learned from what happened in Iraq or Afghanistan, where we promised we would be greeted with roses at our feet, and instead we didn't even know the ethnic mix of the country. We didn't know the factionalism that goes back decades or centuries that was going to make it almost impossible to have lasting peace in certain ways. And if you haven't studied that, if you don't know the ethnic mix, if you don't have a plan for how that will work together or not, if you don't even know how many people live there, then maybe you shouldn't be trying to decapitate the government.
Maybe it doesn't matter.
That would have been a fair thing to say.
Absolutely. Maybe it doesn't matter because he just sees it as an evil country altogether, and therefore he doesn't need to know.
I mean, I think that is what Cruz is saying.
Which is wrong.
He's saying, I don't know all those facts, but I do know that they're trying to kill Trump. I do know that Israel is an ally and that we support Israel no matter what, that there's no distance between us. And so let me ask you then this. What Senator Cruz is also saying there is, I understand Jose Pio and Tucker Carlson might not like the fact that we are going to stand with an ally, or that Iran hasn't harmed us directly, but they're harming Israel, and Israel is our ally. And when your allies are hurt, you stand with them. What do you say to that?
Oh, man, I don't want America involved in other people's business anymore. You can say that they're, our ally. I would love to know in what sense. Like, what are we getting from our $3 billion a year that we give to Israel? That's my question. And you ask that question to anyone else and they kind of attack you as anti-Semite. I'm like, well, no. My tax dollars are being paid to another country and their country's leaders. We did how many billions of dollars to Ukraine? What are we getting out of this? How is this beneficial to us? Why are they our quote unquote ally? And a lot of times it's just shut down conversation, which, this is why I appreciate coming on the show, 'cause I love conversation. I want to talk this out. I want to learn other people's opinions because I'm open to it. I just don't see how this country is our ally to the point where we're spending thousands of dollars every single day to fund them bombing another country for us. That doesn't make sense to me. So you can certainly feel free to enlighten me on why.
Oh, no. I mean, I don't know that I have a perfect answer to that other than part of what this administration has said consistently when Donald Trump was president the first time and now is that Israel is an ally and we will stand with them.
Right. They keep saying that. What does that mean?
Well, I mean, I think we're going to find out soon, right? We're going to find out just how far that goes.
Yeah.
We're going to find out how far that goes. Now, before we listen to one more clip, you don't mind probing questions, right?
Absolutely not.
All right. Are you a Christian?
I like to say that I steer on the side of Christianity. I would be more of a spiritual person than say something that is a religion based off of what someone made up.
Okay, so you're not reading scripture every day.
I read scripture very frequently.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Oh, absolutely.
But for the enlightening, the interesting information part of it to you, not because it is the core of your belief system?
No, it is the core of my belief system. Absolutely.
Okay.
But there's different religions that come off of the same
Sure.
Bible.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So that's why I say you can call me a Christian, you can call me a Baptist, you can call me whatever you want. A lot of people like to put Jose Pio in a box because they want to kind of understand me a little bit more. But I'm a believer.
Okay,
I'll
you're
go with that.
So I want to listen to this clip because part of what Senator Cruz is saying
Oh, it is my favorite one.
is that one of the reasons that we must stand with Israel and all the way to the end here goes all the way back to Scripture. Let's listen.
Growing up in Sunday school, I was taught from the Bible, those who bless Israel will be blessed, and those who curse Israel will be cursed. And from my perspective, I want to be on the blessing side of things.
Of those who bless the government of Israel?
Those who bless Israel is what it says. It doesn't say the government of it, it says the nation of Israel. So that's in the Bible. As a Christian, I believe that.
Where is that?
I can find it to you. I don't have the scripture off the tip of my... You pull out the phone and use the Google.
It's in Genesis. So you're quoting a Bible phrase. You don't have context for it and you don't know where in the Bible it is, but that's like your theology? I'm confused. What does that even mean?
Tucker.
I'm a Christian. I want to know what you're talking about.
Okay. Where does my support for Israel come from? Number one, because biblically we're commanded to support Israel. But number two...
Well, hold on.
I'm not holding on.
Hold on. You're a senator, and now you're throwing out theology, and I am a Christian, and I am allowed to weigh in on this. We are commanded as Christians to support the government of Israel?
We are commanded to support Israel. And what
does that mean, Israel?
We're told those who bless Israel will be blessed.
But what? Hold on. Define Israel. This is important. Are you kidding? This is a majority Christian country.
Define Israel? Do you not know what Israel is? That would be the country you've asked like 49 questions about.
So that's what Genesis, that's what God is talking about.
The nation of Israel, yes.
So is that the current borders, the current leadership? He's talking about the political entity called Israel?
He's talking about the nation of Israel. Yeah, nations exist, and he's discussing a nation. A nation was the people of Israel.
Is the nation
They're the descendants
God's
of
referring
Abraham.
to in Genesis, is that the same as the country run by Benjamin Netanyahu right now?
Yes.
All right, Jose Pio, what do you hear there?
That was great questioning by Tucker Carlson there. And I'd hate to kind of lose some of your listeners here. I am a reader of the Bible. The Old Testament is not written for us. It's written as just to understand the nation of Israel and their history. The New Testament is what is kind of made for us when it comes to being the Gentiles, right? The people who are not of Jewish descent. So rightly dividing the word of God. I have this argument with pastors all the time. Believing that the Israel of today, the government being separate from the religion, we have to rightly divide that understanding. You can be a supporter of the Jews. That's fantastic. But the New Testament says, love thy neighbor, which means it doesn't matter if they're Jewish or Iranian or Islamic, whatever, or Muslim. It doesn't matter. Love them. Love them. That means also don't freaking bomb them, kill them. So when Ted Cruz comes out with this nonsense and it puts a negative light on Christians, it was, in my opinion, that's what kind of destroys a lot of people's belief in the faith, which is they believe in dogma. And that dogma is where I really kind of distance myself from.
Do you worry that that kind of clip can convince either non-believers or people on the fence that, well, Christians will use their scripture to justify war and bombing?
Yes. Yes. I mean, we've seen a long history in the world of people using their faith and religion to destroy nations and to kill people. And it's never been right.
Yeah. That was a case where, I mean, you can hear Carlson at one point says, where in the Bible? And then he goes, it's in Genesis. Yeah. I mean, like, he does have this snarky bit, and they actually kind of get into his snark at one point in the interview. But I thought those questions were fair because it is important to interrogate what it means to support Israel. Criticizing a government is often a way of supporting that country. I think when Americans criticize their government, no matter who's in charge, city government, which you've been a part of, state government, national government, it's probably because you want it to be better in your views, right?
You care.
That doesn't mean that you're against it. It usually means that you want to improve it.
Exactly. And we should want that in every country. But the way to improve another country's government is not to hate them and kill their people. Like, we have to work with them. China, in my opinion, China with their Silk Road initiative, I mean, that's a great way to kind of get countries on your side. Hey, we're going to build ports in your countries.
Soft power.
Fantastic. And they did it really well. So why are we doing the complete opposite.
Well, the administration you supported has essentially abandoned USAID, which was kind of our version of Belt and Road and soft power and a counterpoint to China. Do you think that was a mistake in the Doge world?
Well, I think that was more aligned with the cultural aspects of trying to impose American values on other countries, and that's what I'm not a fan of.
Malaria nets are not cultural values.
There's other aspects of USAID that was used for other things that I'm not a big fan of.
Okay, that's fair. It's not all the same thing. You're right.
Right.
So
I'm
you're
a
choosing
fan of malaria nets.
Okay, so
All right.
I'm putting you on the record. You
Yeah.
think we should keep funding malaria nets?
Yes,
We
absolutely.
should keep funding programs that help keep people alive in Africa.
Absolutely. It's the liberal in me.
Okay. So you're in favor of some of the cuts at USAID on cultural grounds, but not all of them.
Exactly.
So it's too broad brushing.
Exactly.
Okay, fair enough. That's why we're having this conversation. We're trying to see where you are. Now, I want to explore some of the counterpoints that not only Cruz was making, but I want to read something here that was said. Where was it said yesterday? I have too many notes, Jose. I apologize. Greg Gutfeld on Fox News yesterday said this in defending Ted Cruz and in defending President Trump. Here's what Gutfeld said. One of the many benefits of Trump is his refusal to land in the world of the half opinion. He thinks it through. Both sides like to traffic in half opinions. He doesn't. We don't want Iran to get the nuclear bomb. That's a half opinion. We don't want to get involved in foreign wars. That's a half opinion. Trump is not afraid to choose one or the other, and he's choosing to make sure Iran doesn't get a bomb. He doesn't care what people think. He will back Israel and fight alongside them because he doesn't do half opinions. He doesn't go halfway. End quote. That's Greg Gutfeld on Fox News yesterday, defending Ted Cruz and defending President Trump supporting Israel. What do you make of that?
Well, I think that there's a benefit to being open-minded, to kind of changing your mind on some things. I've certainly had my fair share on city council where some folks who I may not agree with, I still said to them, give me your best shot, explain to me why you think I should vote yay or nay on this. I think that Donald Trump is very hard-headed on some things that he shouldn't be. I think that Iran having a nuclear weapon, I don't see how we can be the people that say you're not allowed to do that. Why
we
is
have
that?
several thousand nuclear weapons.
We sure do, and we've used them. We dropped an atomic bomb.
So you're saying we don't have the moral authority to tell another country you are not allowed to pursue this?
Why should we? Why is that?
Because Netanyahu will point out, Trump might point out, Ted Cruz would point out that Iran has said, their leadership has said, death to Israel, death to the United States.
Yeah.
And nuclear weapons are a pretty good way to achieve those goals. So I think what they would say is, when you've got a country vowing to do whatever they can to kill you, you should stop them from getting nuclear weapons.
There's two ways of stopping them. One is to kill them first. And the second way is to say, well, why is it that you hate America? Why is it death to America? What does that mean to you? Why do you feel that way? And they can likely tell you, well, you keep doing regime change in our area and you fund people that want to kill us. So why wouldn't we therefore want to bring death upon your country?
So do you think you can repair the relationship?
I think you can always repair a relationship given free and open, honest dialogue. But the problem here in America, a lot of times with our politicians, is they don't believe in that. They believe in this is what it is and you shouldn't question it. And if you do, then you're anti-American. And that's not right. Why don't we have there are people out there who hate you personally. There are people out there that hate Jose Pio. I can sit there and still have a conversation with them and say, look, why is that? Why do you hate me? Is it because we have a disagreement on something? Cool. We can have a disagreement. That doesn't mean you have to hate me, right? America has stopped having that dialogue with other countries. And we have kind of enforced our way into their country by putting people in power that align with what we want out of that country. We did it in Ukraine. So again, we did it in Afghanistan. But then we come back years later, have a war, fund that war, and then rebuild it again. Why do we keep doing this?
When Vice President Vance says Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon, this can happen one of two ways, the easy way or the other way, end quote. He said that this week. He's obviously saying we can do that through diplomacy or an inspection, or they can get bombed. Mm-hmm. That's Senator Vance. That's Vice President Vance, who as a senator was very much in the America is way too entangled in foreign wars. We should be
Absolutely.
doing less of that.
Absolutely.
Are you surprised to hear him talk like this?
Yes, and I'm surprised in a lot of things that we kind of voted for with this administration. I don't particularly support Trump. It's the administration that he had around him that I really, Tulsi Gabbard being one of them, the primary reason. Tulsi was a big fan of, we're not going to go to war with these other countries that we claim to be our enemies, and yet here we are. And the fact that JD Vance is saying that, what do you think that country's gonna how are they gonna act then? Oh, you're telling me what I can't do? Okay, let me just bow down to to the USA. What? No country's gonna do that. They're gonna say, okay, we'll show you.
So this is not what you expected.
Absolutely
with
not.
Okay,
Absolutely not. And I think there's a lot of folks out there who would agree that this is not what we voted for.
Could they lose you over this?
What does that mean?
Could they lose your support for and I don't mean like, are you going to say that you're not whatever. I mean in the future, could they lose as a coalition your support for other candidates who might claim to carry this banner?
So let me put it this way. I vote for whoever I believe would lead the country a better way than the other candidate.
Sure.
And that's what I do locally here as well. Who I believe in, I don't have to believe 100%
You
with.
voted for Democrats, you voted for Republicans.
I've gone across the spectrum. I would love to see Tulsi in the future be the president of the United States because I believe in who she is and what she has fought for in this country. I'm not MAGA. I'm certainly America first. They can easily lose me. They can lose me tomorrow. Right now, I'm not supporting a lot of the things that Donald Trump is doing because he's just not living up to expectations.
Well, but you say you love Tulsi Gabbard. Just 3 months ago,
Yep.
in March, she testified to Congress
Right.
that the U.S. spy agencies did not believe Iran was working on a nuclear weapon.
Exactly.
Here's what Trump said this week about that. Quote, I don't care what Tulsi said. I think they're very close to having it. End quote. Gabbard gets cornered by reporters, and she follows up by saying, no, she said, I think the president and I are saying the same thing, and she blamed the media for any confusion. That is so weak, man.
That is very weak.
That's
That is very
weak.
weak. And I'm not a big fan of these people who kind of bend the knee to Donald Trump just because he's the one that's in power. I'm not a fan of that at all. I think that you should stand up for what you believe in. Tulsi might say, well, I got a job to do, and I kind of don't want to lose that job over one disagreement.
Okay. But did that surprise you this week?
That surprised me that Tulsi said that 3 months ago and prior to that when she was running for president,
Right.
that we should not be believing what the media is telling us or what the intelligence agencies are telling us about these countries. We should kind of have dialogue with them, open and honest dialogue, and find out for ourselves.
Let's get a little feedback from listeners, and I'm going to start with Andrew in Irondequoit. Listeners, if you want to call the program, it's toll free. It's 844-295-TALK. It's 844-295-8255. 263-WXXI if you call from Rochester, 263-9994. Email the program, connections@WXXI.org. If you're watching on our YouTube channel, you can join the chat there. My guest this hour is Jose Pio, who is a veteran of the United States Army. He was a former member of Rochester City Council. He's a community advocate, a leader up in Charlotte in my neighborhood. You might be my neighborhood leader. I don't even know if you are. Is that?
You can put that as a label. I am just simply somebody trying to do some good in the community.
You're a neighbor. And Jose, ran and was a council member as a Democrat. I actually don't even know where you identify today. He voted for Donald Trump only one time in this most recent election. He has voted in different directions, but Jose has said repeatedly in recent years he wants to see the United States entangled less in foreign war. In fact, don't just jump into foreign wars. Change the foreign policy. And that's a pretty significant part of the coalition that elected Donald Trump, which is why we wanted Jose Pio on the program to kind of explain where that coalition, where that part of it, how they are seeing this possible confrontation with Iran. So that's what we're talking about. Let me get Andrew in Irondequoit on the phone first. Hey, Andrew, go ahead.
Hi, you guys. I'll make this quick. Okay, so Ecclesiastes is a book in the Bible. It's a book of wisdom. And if it says there's a time for war, then by sheer logic, sometimes it's wise to go to war. Now, we of course we want peace. We don't like war. We're Christians. We love peace. But sometimes you have to go to war to end a war. So here's another line. It says there's a time to kill, a time to heal. Now, what would be a time to kill? Let's say those guys on the airplane that was heading for the Capitol.
Flight 93.
On 9/11.
Flight 93, yeah.
Those guys, they were going to they were going to crash into the Capitol or crash into a field in Pennsylvania. So that was a good time to kill because they were going to all die anyway. Why not kill these guys now and crash the plane now and not crash the plane into the Capitol, which would have been a huge disaster if they had accomplished their goal. So see how the wisdom would have been to that time. That would have been a time to kill. I mean, and we don't want to kill anybody ever, but sometimes there is a time to do stuff like that.
But is this one of them for you, Andrew? Is it right to join Israel and target Iran right now? Should we send Iran, or should we send Israel our B-2, our aircraft that can carry a 30,000-pound bunker buster that can go 200, 300 feet through concrete to try to get down into the underground facility? Is that what you want us to do right now?
I think if the smart guys in the military say they're about to get a nuclear bomb, and this time they really are, then, we should probably help them. They don't want to do anything more than that. They don't want to get into a big war. They just want to help Israel snuff out the nuclear capabilities of the Ayatollahs. That's all. It's not a big deal, I don't think.
Andrew, thank you for the phone call. Jose, what do you think?
Yeah, it's a big deal. A bunker buster is not just a firecracker. You're going to start a war. That's a world war starter, and we're sitting here saying that there's a time for killing. Well, we've allowed America in general has allowed our ego and our selfishness to kind of steer countries to hate us, to then get into wars later on, which again I've said before kind of only benefits people who are not not Americans. They're the bankers, financial peoples, and the war hawks out there. So I can see things I shouldn't say I can see things into the future, but based on historical references in the Middle East that we've done with Iraq, with Saudi Arabia, with Afghanistan, it's going to come back to bite us in the rear. So how about we find a way to not go to war is my input there.
When Andrew says, whether you want to quote Ecclesiastes or just talk in general about whether it is occasionally appropriate to kill, do you believe there are occasions where it's appropriate to kill?
That is a very tough question. I believe that, in my opinion, I think there are times when you have to take somebody else out before they do something. But that's something that you're going to have to pay for. You can't just take another life and not have accountability for that.
Talking to Jose Pio, we got to take our only break. I've got a pile of your emails to go through. I want to talk to a little bit more with Jose as well on the other side about how this might, how his views here extend to places like Ukraine. So Jose Pio is our guest. We're talking about the coalition that really wants to stop the United States from being entangled in foreign wars in a much more dramatic way. I say dramatic way, like a very, very little foreign entanglement at all, something close to zero. And that's a big part of the coalition that elected this current administration. So we'll come right back with more of your feedback next.
Support for your public radio station comes from our members and from Mary Cariola Center, providing education and life skills solutions designed to empower individuals and the families of those with complex disabilities. Mary Cariola Center, transforming lives of people with disabilities. More at marycariola.org.
This is Connections. I'm Evan Dawson. Charlie writes to say, Evan, I'll keep it simple. Fighting a war by proxy is immoral. I would, however, want the general public to weigh in and decide if we need to go to war as a country. If it means possibly preventing a nuclear war, we might need to do it. That's Charlie. What do you think?
I don't see how that calculates. If it's to prevent a nuclear war, it's to prevent another country from being able to defend themselves against our nuclear arsenal, how does that compute? Like, if you were the leader of Iran, wouldn't you want to be able to defend yourself against America?
I think probably. I think that's a fair thing to say. Yeah.
Right, and we've got some pretty bad, military power behind us. So why not allow them to say, "Look, we're going to match power with power. So don't do that, and we won't do that."
Do you agree with him that fighting a war by proxy is immoral?
It's immoral. It's unethical. It's wrong.
And he wants the general public to weigh in more, which leads me to another question. I told Jose before the program I was driving in and listening to Congressman Ro Khanna of California on Theo Von's podcast, and Ro Khanna was talking about the resolution that he has introduced with Thomas Massie, who is a Republican, and it is a resolution to try to make sure that Congress has the say whether the United States goes to war against Iran alongside Israel, not just a unilateral decision of Donald Trump and his administration. What do you make of that?
Isn't that the law anyways? Isn't that in the Constitution that it has to be passed by Congress?
I think
we've gone many years without that being the law. I mean, many presidents over the past 15 years have kind of just done whatever they wanted.
Republican and Democrat.
Exactly.
That's pretty common now.
And it's wrong. I mean, again, my favorite President Obama did it. It was wrong when he did it.
Drone strikes, Libya, etc. So what Charlie is saying, I think in general, though, is that you need the public's way in here. You should not have a small group of people in the White House just deciding something this big.
I mean, we claim to be a representative government. Start representing us.
This is Kathy in Shiloh. She says, just want to make sure you guys know that the IAEA, the International Atomic Energy Agency, the entity that monitors the nuclear facilities in Iran, because Iran has signed the Non-Nuclear Proliferation Treaty, even though the U.S. pulled out of the JCPOA, their private treaty, also stated, IAEA, that they do not think Iran is working on a nuclear weapon. Israel has never signed the Nuclear Proliferation Treaty, along with North Korea, and the IAEA has no idea what Israel has. That's from Kathy. What do you think?
I feel like this is Afghanistan all over again. Weapons of mass destruction. We're going to go find them. We have to stop them. We have to start a war for the next, 24 years because they have weapons of mass destruction. It just seems like the same playbook over again.
All right, back to the phones. And I think also in Iran-Quit, I think this is Boo. Hey, Boo, go ahead.
Hi. I've been feeling exactly how Jose is expressing it, that we are entangled with all of these issues in these other countries, and we need to disentangle, but particularly we need to disentangle from our involvement with Israel. And I think the current focus on Iran and it being, such a danger is simply a smokescreen, because as you just were talking about it, Iran had signed the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. They don't believe that Iran is even close to having a nuclear missile. Meanwhile, Israel has probably up to 400 nuclear missiles, never allowed inspectors in, never signed the treaty, and is currently involved with this horrific genocide. And this is what Israel typically does. They need to have another focus to divert the world's attention away from the genocide that's going on in this case. And I think that it's despicable, but the West has been going along with it for so long, and Israel has been, perpetrating these aggressions. They're the most aggressive player in the region. They've dragged us in. They provided the quote-unquote evidence of weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, and we were pulled into that war. But Israel is an aggressive player, and it does the United States no good. It kills our people, and it puts our standing in the world. There's good reason why there's hostility toward the U.S., because we've been meddling in that part of the world as an imperial power for decades, actually, and supporting a genocidal racist regime. Not just a regime. The Zionist is a racist project.
All right, well, Boo, let me just jump in. There's a lot here, and I would like Jose to have a chance to respond. Thank you for the phone call. Go ahead, Jose.
It sounds like Boo is very awake to what the nonsense is in our country. Bibi went in front
You didn't say, you said awake. I thought you said woke.
No, not woke.
Okay.
Awake.
Okay.
Bibi Netanyahu was the one who brought the intel about the weapons of mass destruction to America, said we have to do something about this.
He did, yep.
And it's Bibi again telling us that there's weapons of mass destruction in Iran. So why are we using the same playbook? And it seems like we're falling for it again. But I think the American public is not behind this.
Okay, I'm just trying to kind of play devil's advocate here. Fordo is the underground Iranian nuclear facility. We don't know exactly how deep it is. The New York Times actually had an interesting graphic showing you what we know and what we don't know, and how, if the United States decides to join the bombing, what it would look like. So if you want to read that today, I would encourage you to do that. There's a lot we don't know about it. But logically, why are they building something either 300 feet or half a mile underground if they're just doing peaceful enrichment for energy?
Why do we care?
You're saying not our business.
Not our business. That's how I mean, that's just, why do we care? Honestly, I would love for someone to tell me. What if we just stopped caring?
Again, the counterpoint would be we care because they have stated their intention to destroy Israel.
Because of what we have done. Because of what we've done for Israel. What Israel has done for us. I mean, we're entangled. Boo hit it right on the head. We've been entangled for quite some time. What if we just disentangled and stopped sending money to other countries and stopped, funding other wars and regimes changes? What if we just stopped that?
All right, so here's Dallas. He said, you want to say, first of all, he said, Trump is not calling for a regime change. Trump said they know where the Ayatollah is at all times and that he could take him out if he wants to, and he hasn't decided if he's going to support that. He might and he might not. That is a very blithe, kind of flippant thing to say about taking out the leadership, whether you like the leadership or not. And a lot of Iranians don't like their own leadership. A lot of Iranian people want regime change. I don't know that they want it this way. I can't speak for the Iranian people. But Trump is speaking very flippantly about the ability in the blink of an eye, if he's feeling like it, to take out Ayatollah Khamenei.
What if someone said that about President Trump? What if someone came out, another leader in another country said, we know where President Trump is right now. We have eyes on him with a bomb looking right at him between his eyes. We can take him out at any time. We would destroy that country immediately. So what do you think Iran is thinking when we say that?
So, but here's what Dallas says. He says, we're not going to war. He says, if preventing Iran from getting a nuke involves us giving Israel a Moab or us doing it, a bunker buster, he says, I don't think that means we are at war.
I just don't see how that makes sense. I can't connect that right there. It means you're at war. It means that you are single-handedly funding that war. And you're using other, for the most part, young men to put their lives on the line for your country.
This is what Dallas adds. He says, we're not going to war. I suppose if somehow Israel starts getting obliterated, we'll send a lot of planes in. Trump does not want us to go to war, and I don't see any chance of us going to war, sending our actual troops into Iran.
That makes sense. But again, there's plenty of other wars happening all around the world that we're not involved in. Plenty of other wars. Plenty of civil wars going on in other countries that we are not saying we're going to bomb the other side because you're going after people that we like. Why are we so focused on this?
Last thing Dallas points out, he says, our track record, comparing it to Israel's seems better on intelligence. He says,
absolutely.
He says the pager thing with Hezbollah. He says having Mossad in the Iranian government's anti-Mossad organization actually running it. Dallas is also probably thinking of the fact that Mossad had drones in Tehran ready to hit the air and strike. And Iran didn't know it. So what Dallas is saying is like, we can claim that we know stuff, but like we should trust Israel. They're very good at this stuff, and we're not.
That pager thing was one of the coolest and scariest things. I think we are kind of just overlooking the fact that they were able to blow people up using a pager that they purchased at their convenience store. Who's to say that China wouldn't do that with our cell phones?
Okay. So, boy, it's 12:50 already. I mean, you've touched a nerve, Jose Pia.
I tend to do that. I don't know why.
We're talking to Jose about what the No New Wars Coalition thinks about possible war with Iran and, what this really fraught moment means. When you look at Ukraine, I know, let me take it back. I don't know exactly where you are. My presumption is that you think that is really not our fight and that we ought not be, sending billions upon billions of dollars, weapons, etc. So, number one, is that roughly correct?
That's pretty correct. I mean,
tell me more.
Well, if we spend $108,000 every single day since the day of Christ being on this earth, that's how much we spent on this war with Ukraine, $80-something billion. That's a stupid amount of money, number one. But also, we did the regime change there. We put him into power. We did it. And then we said that Ukraine should be involved with NATO after we told Russia that we will not go any further, east. We said that. And yet, here we are, going up on the border of Russia.
NATO doesn't strike people. NATO defends against attacks.
Right. When you say NATO, I hear America. Because
Well, NATO is an alliance of a lot of nations.
yeah,
not
but
just
it's
the United
us doing it all. We paid the most amount of money.
Well, we pay the most. We don't pay it all. And the fact, I don't think you can say it's just the United States when you see what France has done, when you see what Germany has done in Ukraine, the UK. There's a lot.
Sure. I still think that we kind of provoke. We poke the bear. And I'm not sitting here. I know some people are going to sit there and say, you're just, defending Russia or whatever. You're a Putin sympathizer. I just believe we need to stop poking bears. We need to stop doing these regime changes. I think we just need to focus on Americans. Look, Russia's never did anything to Jose Pio. Iran has never done anything to Jose Pio. There's plenty of people in this city who have done far worse things than Russia has done to the city of Rochester. So why aren't we focused on that? That's our enemy right now is within our cities.
Would you dissolve NATO? Do you think Article 5 is a mistake?
If I believe that we shouldn't be involved with foreign wars or funding anything foreign related, then I think that we should not be part of NATO.
I mean, I think your ideological opponents would say you are not fulfilling your duties as a powerful ally who should be promoting peace. And I understand your concern is peace, not war. I think what they would say is there are times where if you are truly an ally and you've got the muscle, you are needed to step in.
Why do we go to war? For the most part, why do we go to war?
You want the utilitarian answer?
Sure.
Because our interests are viewed as threatened in some way.
Right. So
our self-interest.
Our self-interest, right, which means that we need that other country for something, and they need us for something. I believe that there are better ways to do that than to say we will kill other people for you as long as you give us what we want.
Let me read one more email. This is from Alex, who says, President Trump has defended Israel's actions in Gaza. Trump has even said that he might put a new Trump resort in the Gaza Strip and really raise the prestige of the place. What do you make of that?
I think that was Trump being Trump. I think it was funny at best. It's a stupid thing to say. You're not gonna put a freaking Trump Plaza in Gaza right now, but at the same time, it highlights exactly what we're doing. We tend to destroy countries and then rebuild it. Who's going to put the money up? We tend to get real estate on the cheap when we destroy the country.
You're not good with that, are you?
No, not at all.
But you voted for this guy.
Oh, hold on. You're conflating two different things.
No, I'm drawing a direct line.
Right.
Trump is in real estate, ostensibly. I mean, I don't know if he's actually a billionaire. I think he is. He is in real estate.
He is a billionaire. Yes.
Okay. And his response when Netanyahu visited the first time in his new administration, 4 or 5 months ago, was to stand with Netanyahu and say that they're going to support, our administration supports Israel, that we understand they're still responding to October 7th, and that what's happening in Gaza could end if Hamas just sends the hostages back and lays down their arms and gives up the government. And by the way, maybe we'll just put a new Trump resort in there. Maybe we'll have,
right.
Yeah, and you're kind of laughing, but you've spent the hour saying you're against war, and there's 50,000 dead Palestinians, women and children.
I'm laughing because that's an absurd thing to say when that's actually happening. You're talking about putting a Trump Plaza in a land where we just allowed a decimation of an entire group of people. So yeah, I shouldn't be laughing at it.
You're laughing at the absurdity of it?
At the absurdity of him being him.
But not supporting that.
No, absolutely not. I don't want him to put a Trump Plaza in Puerto Rico, let alone Gaza.
That's a whole other story. But let me just close with this then. What do you think should happen in Gaza?
Man, what should happen in Gaza? Have you seen the pictures of the decimation of
all
the buildings there?
Oh, yeah.
All right, so I believe that if you are destroying that country, if you're going to war with that country, if you are okay with the outcomes of you bombing them, then you must pay for your actions.
Others would say, well, no, it's Israel bombing them, not us.
Israel needs to pay for it.
And they're getting a lot from us.
Looks like we're loaning them money.
In 2,000-pound bombs.
We will pay for that at some point. I think in the grand scheme of things in this universe, you can't go around killing people and not pay for it somehow.
Do you think the Trump administration or Trump himself should tell Netanyahu to stop there?
He should tell everyone in the world to stop killing other people. Stop. Just end it right now. We're done. We're gonna go a different route. We're gonna work with other countries and say,
or what? Hey, Netanyahu, you're done in Gaza, or what?
stop sending money.
We're not funding you anymore.
Just stop. We don't have it anyways. We ain't got it. Just tell them we ain't got it.
The well is dry.
Sorry I sent you that check, but it's gonna bounce.
Last 30 seconds here. Trump, one of his favorite formulations is to say, I'll decide in 2 weeks. And it's become kind of a meme.
Mm-hmm.
That's what he said yesterday about Iran. He's going to decide in 2 weeks. He's getting a lot of pressure. What do you think he's going to do?
I think Donald Trump believes himself to be a deal maker. I believe that he has kind of shown that he can make deals given the opportunity to really discuss it, talk it out, and find a way to come to an agreement. I'm hoping that's what he wants to do here. That is my hope. I don't put faith in man, though. I believe that God has a plan for all of this, and it'll all work out in the end.
However, as we hear the music, if that doesn't happen, and if the United States enters this war, you think this coalition could really splinter?
I believe it already starting. What this would do would completely break it apart.
Thank you for making time to come in.
I appreciate the invite, as always.
Not easy on Lake Avenue traffic for us Charlotters, but we made it.
That's right.
And
Charlottarians.
Charlottarians. I told Jose it's his Army punctuality from his service in the United States Army more than 20 years ago. We're getting older.
I'm old,
Jose.
dude. I'm old.
You're a young man. Thank you for making time.
Love you, Evan.
We got more connections coming up. Congressman Joe Morelli next.
This program is a production of WXXI Public Radio. The views expressed do not necessarily represent those of this station, its staff, management, or underwriters. The broadcast is meant for the private use of our audience. Any rebroadcast or use in another medium without expressed written consent of WXXI is strictly prohibited. Connections with Evan Dawson is available as a podcast. Just click on the Connections link at WXXInews.org.
Support for your public radio station comes from our members and from Corning Museum of Glass, where guests can discover Brilliant Color, an exhibition exploring color innovation in modern glass. Brilliant Color, with live hot glass demonstrations and other glass creations, awaits. More at cmog.org.
One of the best ways to support WXXI is to become a sustaining member. You give a little bit each month, and your contribution renews automatically every year. Sustaining members provide a stable source of revenue for your favorite programs. For as little as $5 a month, you can become a sustaining member at WXXI.org.